Hello, everybody, and welcome to my end of the year palace. Yes, this is where I go for the summer after I'm done with the school year. But first, we got to finish the school year out. And what we're going to do is we're going to have some option for different projects. You actually have up to 10 projects you can choose. Obviously, you're not going to have enough time to do all 10 projects. So I'm going to try and give you enough variety that everybody can find something that they like. Here we go. Project number one. You draw an object of any kind. It could be an animal. It could be a contour line of something that you're looking around at. It could be just a paper divided with lines that go all the way from the edge to the edge, so it divides it into different spaces. Then you're going to fill each one up with a different Zentangle. You could do this with marker. You could do this with pen. A lot of people really like to use pens for these. Or you could do this and add some color to it, either by doing it in pen first and then later on watercoloring it, or by doing it in pencil and adding some colored pencil to it at the end, whichever way you want to do it. This fulfills Maryland Visual
Art Standards, grade 6 to 8, VA:CR 1.2.6/7/.
Number 2. This is a classic, an oldie but a goodie. This is something that you have to do every single year if you want to make it into Mr. Dees art club at my school, and that is to do a contour line drawing, meaning you look at it and you actually try and draw it as real as you can, like looking at the real thing, of a shoe. If you want to do some sort of fancy shoe that you cannot afford and all you can find is a picture, that is fine by me. You got to find a photograph of it and really spend some time looking at it and observing exactly what the shapes are, trying to match the shading. If you want to do some color on that later on, that's fine. We can talk about whether you want to do abstract color, where it looks kind of crazy, or whether you want to do realistic color, which is very difficult, but can be very rewarding. Moving on, the third possible project that you can do is what I call an exploded drawing. You can choose a toy, or a car, or a fruit, or vegetable, or whatever it is. You need to know what all the parts are of it, and then you need to pretend like it got exploded, and you can see every individual part spread out around the paper and draw every single thing. Example, this is too simple. You would have to choose something with way more parts than this, but if you did a banana, you might do all the different parts of the banana peel and the banana itself, and then that's if you separated all the parts. Now, where it gets interesting is if you do something like a car, or if you do something like an iPhone. You get it. Something that has a lot of parts. So then you have like a front screen, a back screen, a camera, this camera, that camera. You can probably find diagnostic drawings online to go off of. You can do this any way that you want to. I would suggest doing it black, white, realistic. But if you want to make it sort of more of a pop art thing with some bright colors and maybe even some crazy patterns, I could see doing that too. You just got to come up with an idea and then tell me what you're working on. Moving on. This is something I used to do a lot of just for fun. I still do it sometimes to make coloring sheets for kids, things like that. It is a 1-point perspective name drawing. So you're going to draw your name or a word that represents something good, nothing that represents anything bad, and then you are going to draw a single vanishing point in the back, connect everything to it, and if you decide you want to cut off your letters with some back lines, that's fine to make them a little shorter. However deep you want them to go, or they can go all the way back to the point. I would suggest adding lots of bright colors to this and maybe some patterns in the background, or you could even go into a magazine and cut out some stuff and glue it in so that it fits around your letters perfectly. We know how to do cut paper at this point in the year. The options are pretty much endless as long as you come up with an idea and let me know about it. Let's move on to the next choice. All right, this one I just came up with sitting on my couch. You have to pick at least 3 different creatures. They can be real or fantasy or technological, and you have to mix them together in at least 2 different ways. So you start off with 3 things: a chicken, a dog, and a robot. And then you find out 2 different ways that you can combine those things to create 2 creatures. So in the end, you owe me a drawing of 2 different creatures that you made up out of the 3 different parts that you chose. You can draw that as realistic or as cartoony as you want to. Make it beautiful, make it happen. Let's move it along. This is, I think, the first project that I ever did when I taught my first class of all time, and it's called Surrealistic Handscapes. So what you do, you start off with a horizon line, you draw some sort of a landscape that's going back, so you got the ground going down, going back, and then behind that you have the sky, and some stuff in the background, maybe some mountains or whatever you want to put, and then you are going to take at least 3 things, and you're going to replace them with a hand that you draw in a shape. Like if it's a tree, you might draw your hand like this with the wrist coming out of the ground. The little puff ball is up at the top. Maybe it's a tree more like this, so you got to draw the hand like that. Maybe you're drawing maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a giant spider. You're allowed to make it anything you want. I want there to be a little bit of a story going on in your scene. You can make it color, you can shade it, it's up to you. But try and make it kind of a cartoony, crazy, wild, surreal story going on. And then don't forget, you got to replace 3 things with hands. I got a packet in the classroom about how to draw hands. If you need to borrow that from me, it has different realism levels. Or you can just look those things up and go off of like a Google image that you find that's a packet of hands. If that helps you get started, so you can kind of figure out what the main lines are, how you draw the thumb, how you draw the palm and the fingers, all that sort of stuff. And that is it. Surreal handscape. Moving on. Okay, this project is going to be one that anybody who loves Easter eggs or tiny details is really going to enjoy. You are going to start off by drawing a keyhole shape. So there's like a classic trope in movies and video games where somebody's looking through the keyhole so they can see what's going on in a room to try and like solve a mystery or something. So what you are going to do is come up with a story where there's a little bit of a mystery, right? And somewhere in this keyhole scene, you're going to hide clues so that the person can figure out what your mystery is. So you got to do a lot of thinking about this. And if you have trouble drawing anything, don't be afraid to look up a reference. Like if you need to draw a rope in there, look up a reference of a rope that's sitting the way you want it and kind of try and draw it on whatever counter that you're putting it on or whatever table. I don't know. I don't know what your mystery is. Where's your rope going to be? Why do you have a rope? What's going on? That's it. Draw a mystery through a keyhole, and then you can black out or put like wood texture or door texture around the rest of the page so we have that one little focus section that has all the information in it. Moving on. This one is a fun challenge that will actually make you better at drawing. It's called Value Scale Creatures. So what you're going to do is you're going to start off with the classic drawing practice of the 9 or 7 squares, depending upon how challenging you want it to be. Go for 9, just go for it. The 9 squares in a long rectangle, and you start off with the white of the page, as light as you can with your pencil, get a little bit darker until the 9th one is as dark as you can possibly color with your pencil. And you have a gradual fade from light to dark going on through there. So on a big piece of paper, you're gonna have a large value scale, and you're gonna draw a character, 9 different characters that go across there. They can be cute little creatures, they can be chess pieces, anything that you want, but you have to match the value of the character to the box that's below it. So you wind up with a value scale and then recreating that 9 value scale inside of 9 creatures, characters, whatever you want it to be. It's a very simple project, but it will make you practice and get better at shading, and you'll probably also end up with a really cool artwork at the end of it. So, moving on. All right, this one is the most abstract out of all of them. If you ever wanted to do something that just wasn't a picture of anything and instead gave you a chance to use composition, like where you put the things on the page, balance, all your different principles of design in order to make a beautiful artwork that inspires an emotion of some kind to look at. This one is called Emotional Lines. You are probably going to draw about 1,000 lines on this artwork because you're going to wind up covering an entire page with them. You're going to do different kinds of lines like zigzags, curves. You're going to make them so that they flow together. You have some movement, so you have some balance. You don't have like an empty side of the page and a heavy side of the page unless that's part of how you're designing your stuff. And you're going to take your time on each of those lines and decide exactly what color it should be. And then I want you to mess with the thickness of the line. Sometimes you're going to make it, you start off with just a line, but then you might decide that the bottom of it is going to be very wide. Then it's going to come up gently and get skinnier. Then it's going to get wider again at the end. And I'm going to do that to these 3 lines over here and this 1 line down here so that there's some balance. And then I'm going to, so if this is something where you grab a fistful of markers and you just scribble on a page and you tell me that you're done, that's not going to count as the project. You need to really be somebody who's willing to sit and think, like, how can I make this collection of lines turn into a beautiful artwork? But if you're willing to take that challenge on, and I do think it is more challenging than you might think that it sounds. If you're willing to do that and stick with it until it feels like a finished artwork, I will give you permission to work on that as one of your end-of-year projects. Now that we're done with the lines, moving on. All right, so the next thing is inspired by a type of art called, I think it's Notan from Japan, and it is all about balance. So you're gonna come up with a design that is half black, half white out of cut paper, and it is going to be all about contrast and balance. You can make it shapes, you can make it into a design of some sort, as long as it's completely symmetrical on both sides, and it's half black and half white in the end. Then you will have created your balanced, contrasting, Notan-inspired cut paper artwork. That's it. That's number 10. If you finished all those before summer, you went too fast and you're bad. If you want to bring it up to the hashtag Art Squad level, then I want you to tell me which one you're working on to start. As soon as you finish that, as soon as you think it's finished, bring it to me. If I tell you you can do something better, do it. But if I tell you that you're done, then immediately have your next decision made for what the next one's going to be and see how many of these that you can get done before summer. Also, if you're a 6th or 7th grader who's coming back to my class, feel free, if you really want to pull it up to the hashtag Art Squad level, to get some of these done over the summer. You can always become better or re-engage yourself with your art. We got some graffiti in there, we got some characters in there, we got some abstract in there, we got some realism in there, we got it all. So just pick something, lock in, and be cool. And it'll be summer before you know it, and we'll all have A+, and the world will be bright and beautiful here in my summer palace. If you liked it, like it, subscribe or share if you would. Thanks.